Welcome back to the channel, you guys. This is part 2 of the N8N workflow automation thing that I'm kind of working through here. A problem that I'm trying to solve right now is this problem with double booking. So for example, if you send client A a meeting request, you send client B a meeting request a couple hours, and you accidentally tell your availability is the same on both of those, and they both confirm, you got a double booking. So I'm working with N8N workflows to try to solve that problem. And in the previous video, I walked through kind of the first steps of how this is working, how I'm kind of imagining it. So let's get back into this. This is part 2. If you haven't watched part 1, go do that. We're gonna walk through a little bit of a refresher of what's going on here. So in part 1, we had talked about basically what happens when I send an email to a client with a specific date and time that I wanna meet with them. It's going to the N8N workflow is going to catch that email. It's going to see that I'm sending one out to a client, and then it's going to create a placeholder meeting on my calendar for that specified time and date. So the part that needs to we need to solve now is what happens when that client responds with either a confirm or a deny for that specific meeting time. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this real quick. So I'm going to send my client an email. We're going to say ZigTech client. Created another dummy email for you. Meeting time request. We'll say, Zach, can you meet 9/19/2025, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. EST? We'll send that email on over. Okay. So now I've got Gmail pulled up for both me and the client, so we can kind of walk through this whole thing, how it's going to work. So we're going to go ahead and execute this first step. I won't go into too much detail because we covered that in the first video. So we're going to go ahead and execute this. There is one additional piece that I didn't cover in the first video that I'm going to cover here, which is this Google Sheet. So we executed this final step, create calendar event. So if we go back to here, you can see it's calling this meeting placeholder with the client's email 1 to 2 p.m. and it created that object for us. If we go back to the client side, we can see that, okay, we got this email, which is good. So, okay, so as I mentioned, I put an additional piece in here on this first step of catching the sent emails. We're going to send the information of the email recipient, the date, time, and different information about the meeting to a Google Sheet document so that we can reference it later when we're going to handle the receiving of emails from clients, okay? So when I execute this last step here, add email details to Google Sheet, this is going to send various pieces of information over to this Google Sheet document here. So you can see we're capturing the sent to, the message itself, the thread ID, which is very important because the thread ID is the unique identifier for an email thread that you have going with somebody. Okay, so when we go back to receive an email, we got to make sure that the message that we received is actually exists in this thread ID column here. Okay, capturing the meeting ID. This is the unique identifier for the Gmail object. So this placeholder event here has a unique identifier associated to it. So we need to also reference that later when we go to forward that meeting invitation to the client after they've confirmed. Okay, and then we got the receiver. So who's receiving the email? All right. So moving into kind of part 2 of this. So we've sent out our email. We've got our placeholder sitting there waiting. Kind of step 2 is now, okay, what happens when the client responds back to us with either a confirmation or a denial of the time that we requested, okay? So let's go to our client email here. We're gonna simply respond and say, yes, that works for me. We will hit send. We'll go back here, make sure we receive that before we do any execution of the N8N workflows. One thing too that I forgot to mention in the first video, all of this is automatic. So it's like, once this is live, these are just running. I'm not having to manually click these and run them and do this. These things will just be on and running all the time. So it's fully automated. If that wasn't clear at the beginning of this whole venture here. Okay, so we got our response back. Yes, that works for me. Okay, great. So let's go back to our N8N workflow. Now we're in the catch receive emails. We'll go ahead and execute the get the received emails. We're going to get the email thread ID. So it's going to give us a list from our Google Sheet document, all of the thread IDs that exist already. So This is important because we only want this workflow to execute when emails are received to us that are in relation to the emails that we sent, right? Because we're going to be getting emails all day long from other things that are completely separate from the requests that we had sent to the client. So we only want to make sure that our workflows are running for emails that actually have value or pertain to this particular solution, okay? So the N8N agent is going to fetch from the Google Sheet all of the thread IDs that currently exist. Then it's going to make sure that the email that we received, that thread ID, exists inside of our Google Sheet. Okay, so if it exists, it'll evaluate to true. Then what we're going to do is pass the message that the client sent to us in their response into ChatGPT, and we're going to have ChatGPT determine if the client denied or confirmed our meeting time. Okay, so instead of like hard coding all the possible yeses or all the possible nos that a client could send to us, we're going to have AI determine that for us. All right, so it passed that message into ChatGPT. Now it's going to either determine if it's a confirm or deny. And basically I told ChatGPT, I want you to interpret this email and tell me if the client is confirming or denying the email. And I only want you to give me two possible responses, either yes or either no, so that I can handle that at a Boolean level much easier than having to decipher many other things, okay? So our response from ChatGPT is either gonna be yes or no. So we'll go ahead and execute the confirm deny logic. We know that they confirmed it because they said yes, or we said yes. So it's going to forward the meeting invite. So a couple of things here first I want to note. I think this is really cool. Placeholder with ZigTech client 1 at Gmail. That's what that currently says. When I execute the forward meeting invite, it's going to not just forward that meeting invite to the client, but it's also going to update the subject line of that meeting. So now we can see it says confirmed meeting with ZigTech client at gmail.com. Because what I was thinking was, if we have 8 or 9 of these sitting on our calendar that all say placeholder, we know that if they say placeholder, that means the client hasn't gotten back to us yet, okay? If they say confirmed, that means the client has gotten back to us, meaning that the client has accepted and said, yes, that time works. So anything that said confirmed means that you're good, the client's good, and you guys are good to meet. Anything that says placeholder either means the client, actually no. If it says placeholder still, that simply means that the client hasn't responded yet, because we also have a condition in here that if they deny that meeting time, it will delete that placeholder meeting. So it'll completely remove that placeholder meeting from our calendar, okay? And if we go over to the client side email as well, we can now see they also have that meeting invite confirmed, meeting with ZigTech client 1 at gmail.com, and then I've got that on my calendar as well, okay? So it's working great. Everything's working fine. Now what we need to do is create a component to this where there's basically a time limit. So when I send out a request to meet with a client, let's say today's Tuesday, if I want to meet with them on Friday, well, they have until Thursday at noon to get back to me. And if they don't get back to me, then I want my agent to remove that placeholder and then send a follow-up email to that client and say, hey, I'm no longer available at this time. Actually, no, I don't know what's going to happen yet. But the next step is definitely a time component to this, to where a placeholder meeting expires, because we don't want to just have a bunch of placeholder meetings on our calendar with those clients not getting back to us, and we can't book other meetings with other clients. And so we just need to have an expiration time or date on these placeholder meetings, okay? So that's step 3, phase 3, whatever you want to call it in this venture. Let's get to it. Thank you, guys.